Man, there are too many HMX switches available at Unikey's. I honestly don't know which one to choose. I need some help, please. Don't worry about it, man. I had the same trouble too. I spent all my lunch money buying every single HMX switch there is. I tried all of them, so you don't have to. Now, let me guide you. Good day, everyone. Welcome to our channel. This video is honestly overdue, as our HMX collection is getting bigger and bigger. It must be difficult to decide which one you should try, but don't worry about it. I'm here to guide you. Since there is too much information we need to cover, yeah, that's right. I'll break it down into a few short videos for a better watching experience and easier navigation. Before we dive deep, I would like to introduce you to some basic concepts which are super relevant to this topic. Today, we'll talk about HMX molding designs and materials very quickly. Right now, let's talk about molds first. There are 4 mold sets that HMX uses in most cases, which are the L1 molds, the L2 molds, the L3 molds, and the L4 molds. I know, in my past article, I named HMX molds with my own naming system, which I called them the OG mold, the OG 2.0, and the new mold. But for now, in order for us to better tell the differences between them, I'm going to use HMX naming system for the molds, which are the L1, L2, L3, and L4. The reason that HMX uses 4 generations of molds is that they are trying to make some breakthrough, or should I say innovation, with each upgrade. For example, with the L1 mold, which most of us are very familiar with because HMX used it to manufacture most of the OG switches we know of, such as Xinhai, Hyacinths, Macchiatos, Clouds, and Cheese. But HMX only used the L1 mold for less than 6 months. The reason was that although the L1 mold was able to create a very clacky, clean, solid, and beautiful sound, but they come with the syringe effect. If you haven't heard of the syringe effect, it basically means that when you're pressing down your switches, they feel kinda stuck or sluggish. I know some of you have had this problem before with your HMX switches. So, in order to fix this problem, HMX then did a small upgrade to the L1 mold, and now here we have the L2 mold. The L2 mold is being used by HMX from December 2023 up until today, and all the OG switches I mentioned above are now manufactured using the L2 mold, which is the upgraded version of the L1 mold. And with the L3 mold, HMX was trying to make something, I should say different. Both the L1 and L2 molds were perfectly fine for clacky switches, but HMX was unable to produce any other sound signatures with those 2 molds, so they thought maybe they should change the design of the mold set. That way, they will be able to create other sound signatures, such as deep or stocky, right? That's the idea. And here we go. Now we have the L3 mold, which was implemented starting from June 2024 to present. And HMX used it to manufacture quite a few famous and popular switches we know of. And with the L3 mold, HMX was able to create a wider spectrum of sound signatures. For example, with the Sugar Rush and Yogurt switches, they are still very clacky, but now they also sound fuller. And with the Hades V2 switches, they actually sound pretty deep. That's something HMX was unable to achieve with the L1 or L2 mold. And with switches such as Ginkgo, here we go, HMX was able to create a mid-tone, sulky, and creamy sound profile. So I would say the L3 mold was indeed a breakthrough. And finally, here we have the L4 mold, which I'm super excited about. As some of you might have noticed, HMX was unable to produce switches with palm housing. and that's the job of the L4 mode. The L4 mode we're looking at is specifically designed for palm housings, and switches such as Cosmic Purple, Lunar Stone, and Serene Green are all manufactured with the L4 palm housing mode. Next, let me tell you how we can tell the differences between these modes by their appearances. First, the thing to remember is both the L1 and L2 modes, they look exactly the same, so I will be just using a cloud switch from the batch 2 made with the L2 mode as an example. We can ignore the top housing, really, and let's look at the stem first. First thing we need to pay attention to is the internal structure of the stem. As we can see, there is an opening inside of it. And if we compare it to a L3 stem, we can tell the differences. As you can see, inside the L3 stem, there is a closed circle, and it's not in the L1 or L2 stem. Another thing to note on the stem is to look at the side of it. If we look at the side of the stem, we'll notice that the gray stem, which is a L3 stem, it has a leg opening on the side. And with the L1 and L2 stem, the side is completely closed. There's no gap. And when we look at the bottom housing, we can notice a difference too. On the L1 or L2 bottom housing, the bottom housing marking is right here. It's right between the metal pins. And with a L3 bottom housing, the bottom housing markings are right here. They're behind the plastic legs. That's how we tell the differences between L1, L2, and L3 modes. L4 modes is kinda similar to the L3 modes. Again, we can ignore the top housing because they all look the same. When we look at the stems, we'll notice that the L3 and L4 stems both have this opening on the legs, like this little gap. And if we look inside of the stem, we will notice that both of them has this circled structure. So basically, L3 and L4 stems, they look the same, but L3 and L4 bottom housings, they look different. As we can see, both of them have the bottom housing markings behind the plastic legs, but on the L3 bottom housing, the markings are numbers. And with the L4 bottom housing, the markings are just images. Now you might wonder, can you mix match stems and housings coming from different generations? The answer is yes. For example, I can put an L1 or L2 stem in an L4 housing. That won't be a problem. Now, let's talk about the materials that HMX uses, shall we? Don't let the long list scares you. There are only a few base materials that they use, including POM, UPE, POC, PA66, nylon, PA12, and PC. All the other ones you see here, all the ones that have these weird names, they're all just modified versions of the base materials. For example, anything that starts with a T, for example like T2, T3, those are just UPE modified versions. And anything that starts with a P, for example P2, PA2, P3, PA30, those materials are really just nylons. LY is just a modified version of POM. I'm not going into too much details about the materials today. I'll leave that fun part for the future when we talk about specific switches in details. In conclusion, by mixing different modes and materials, HMX switches can produce a range of sounds such as thocky, clacky, quiet, and muted. I'm going to break it down for you and guide you on how to pick the right switch for yourself. No matter the sound profile you are looking for is thocky, clacky, muted, creamy, or just deep. In the next video, we'll talk about how to choose the right clacky switches first. If you are interested, please stay tuned. Thank you for watching today's video.